Welcome to the Sell My Business podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. Your liquidity event is the largest and most important financial transaction of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time, money, and effort wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave anywhere from 50% to over 100% of their deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a 7-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure offer. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? If you believe that you either don't have the time or you'll prepare closer to your liquidity event, think again. Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing that the skills that built your business are the same ones for your liquidity event. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and our 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the maximum value for your liquidity event. At the end of this episode, take a moment to hear from business owners just like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Justin Breen is the founder and CEO of BrEpic Communications, LLC, a public relations company that works exclusively with visionaries and exceptional businesses around the world. Although BrEpic Communications is a public relations firm, Justin still considers himself a journalist, which is how he started out in his career. Justin is hardwired to seek out and create viral, thought-provoking stories that the media craves, and he finds the best stories when he networks with visionary entrepreneurs and executives who understand the value of investing in themselves and their businesses. In May 2020, Justin published his first book, Epic Business: 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life You Want. The book details 30 lessons which he learned working with some of the top entrepreneurs in the world and outlines how he has applied their wisdom to his company. Justin attended the University of Illinois, where he received his Bachelor's of Science in News and Editorial Journalism. In 2020, his company was a winner of the Silver Trumpet Award from the Publicity Club of Chicago. Justin resides in the greater Chicago area with his wife, Sarah, and 2 children, Jake and Chase. Welcome to the Sell My Business podcast. I have a very special guest with us today, Justin. And Justin has a story that's going to knock you off your feet when you hear it, both of where he came from and what he's doing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So firstly, Justin, welcome to the Sell My Business podcast. So happy to have you with us. And for our first question, there's always a story behind the story. And Justin, would love to hear, what's your story? What got you to where you are today?
Yeah, so it's great to be on here. Most of my days talking to the world's top entrepreneurs, and then my brain's like a sponge. So, I just love talking to people like you who think at the highest level, and then I hear some interesting things and then incorporate it into my life or connect people like that to each other. My brain can just do that very quickly. And I was just born to be an entrepreneur at the highest level. And my father was 61 when I was born, and my mom was 27, and my father would be 105 if he was alive now. And so he was a World War II hero, came from nothing. He was shot down 9 times in combat and came from nothing, became the president of an insurance company, an attorney in the Nuremberg trials, and kept a diary of his experiences fighting in World War II in the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest. I don't know how he wrote it. He was in a foxhole, right? Pelted down. And I write exactly like he does, inform and entertain. There's no fluff. There's no nonsense. It's just inform and entertain. And so that's my dad. And then when he was, in his late 50s, he was driving on an expressway and a drunk driver went across the median and hit him head on, and the drunk driver was killed. And instantly, my dad broke every bone in his body, but he survived. And my mom was his nurse. So my mom literally nursed him back to health. And most of my days talking to people like you at the highest level. And I've never met anyone in my life with more hustle than my mom. I was just born to be this person. I'm just my parents combined, and here I am.
Wow, that's a phenomenal story and background. And you had some exposure to some life trials that most people will never have. How did that shape you on a couple of fronts, Justin? So firstly, having
Yeah.
a father who had you when he was 61, I believe you said. And
Yeah.
so growing up to have a father at that stage in his life, and then a war hero. And then you combine that with what happened with the accident. So how did that impact you growing up?
You're either born to be the highest performing entrepreneur on the planet or you're not. I mean, that's just how it is, because I think most people would want to have this life where you do what you like to do and what you're good at. You make as much money as you want to. Most people would do that. But yeah, if you said, oh, you have to go through, almost certainly you have to go through bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, depression, the highest level of anxiety, and possible traumatic experience as a child or young adult, then I'd say, no, those people stop at those four things. You don't stop at those four things. You never stop. You just keep going. I was just born to be that person. And my dad, he died when I was 13, but he lived just long enough. He told me all the time, how the cream rises to the top. So I only partner with the cream that rises to the top, or the people that would never make excuses. No excuse to the highest level. So I only partner with cream that rises to the top, or the ones that'll make the investment to rise to the top, period. So I just eliminate everything else. I just eliminate nonsense from my life.
And let's talk about that, because it was 2017 when you did something that was interesting. You really said, hey, stop the presses. And you started your company, BrEpic Communications. And so what was that all about, Justin? What had you say, I'm going to start my company? Because you started this, and we'll let the listeners hear what it is that you do in your own words. You'll do a far better job of that than I could ever do. But let them hear in your own words, you got into an industry and into a business that was really new for you. And most people wouldn't have done that. So what led to that?
February 10th, 2017, I was working full-time as a journalist. I spent my whole life as a journalist. And so February 10th, 2017, had a 5-minute meeting with the company's owner and managing editor, and they proceeded to cut my salary in half. And I'd done nothing wrong. It's just, that's what happens in journalism. Tried to find a job, couldn't find a job over the next couple of weeks. So incorporated company called BrEpic, April 16th, 2017. So over the next 6 weeks, while I was working full-time at half the salary, I reached out to 5,000 people to find my first 5 clients. 1 out of 1,000 folks said yes, 999 no's for every yes, so 0.1%. And got the 5th client. I was June 1st, 2017, resigned June 2nd. So that was just to get the firm started. Most people can't do that. They can't do that. But I was just born to be able to do that. And the entrepreneur life, again, people see sunshine and rainbows, but I still have not one entrepreneur at the highest level, at the very highest level. I'm not talking about nickel and dime businesses. I'm talking very highest level. And a top entrepreneur that does not overcome at least one of the following 4 things. Most are 2 or 3, some are all 4, but most are 2 or 3. And I mentioned them before, but the 4 things are bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, 2, depression, 3, the highest level of anxiety you can imagine, and 4, likely and or possible traumatic experience as a child or young adult. So most people, that's where they stop. They use those as excuses their whole lives. They're pretty much from childhood, they use those as excuses. Top entrepreneur on the planet, no excuses. You just get it done, period.
Overnight, you switched from being a journalist, a reporter, and you went into a sales role. And for every 1,000 people you spoke to, 999 no's, a classic entrepreneurial story. You had your one person that said yes, and you kept on going. Most people would have stopped probably after the first maybe 15, 20, certainly the first 50, and probably not make it to 100, but you just kept on going. So what was motivating you to get that done, Justin?
Yeah, so my father came from nothing. War hero, shot down 9 times in combat, many times not wearing a parachute. His diary talks about that in detail, and his diary is my most cherished possession. And I'm not going to F it up for my dad.
So your father's legacy in memory of him and being the father's son, just pushing you forward to get that done.
No matter how successful it gets, that's meaningless. I'll never stop. Never stop, because at the highest level, you never stop. You always want to grow. You always want to get better. But my dad, I will never stop. And the best part about being an entrepreneur is that my kids see me, this life is even possible, because most people aren't even aware that entrepreneur life is even possible, because most of the world is scarcity and most of the world employee and not abundant. I'm happy that my kids get to see me doing this at such a young age, and they can do whatever they want with that. That's the best part about being an entrepreneur.
And so with this work ethic, which is applicable to every business owner that is listening, in our community. Justin, when you were building BrEpic Communications, you had the 3 C's that you talk about of using and relying on those 3 C's to get things going for your firm. Can you share with our audience what those 3 C's are and why they're important?
Here's the main C. And I'm in strategic coach, which I'm very confident saying that it's the top entrepreneurial group in the world. I'm very thankful for that. Dan Sullivan, I'm very confident saying he's the top entrepreneurial coach. And I like strategic coach so much because he's really the closest person I met who reminds me of my dad. So that's why there's so much wisdom. Dan talks about the C's. And to me, the number one is courage. And courage is getting in a plane like my dad did without a parachute many times in combat. And then most people, they don't have courage because courage has to do with fear, and the fear stops them. I've learned that fear is actually a good thing because that means you're excited about something. And you just have the courage to push through it. You never stop. You just keep pushing through it. Whether 999 people say no. And it's interesting you mentioned the sales. I haven't sold anything in, I don't know. I've been an entrepreneur for a little over 4 years. I haven't really sold anything in at least 2 years. I haven't done anything outbound. I've become the buyer. Folks pay my firm, but I'm the buyer of only the people I want to hang out with. I don't sell anything. If it's someone that I don't want to interact with, it's not the right fit. So if it's the right fit, then they just pay my firm and then we partner together.
And we're going to talk about that because I know for me that is a wonderful entree into your book. But before we get to your book, which is intriguing just from the title all the way through, why don't you share with our listeners what it is exactly that you do at BrEpic? Because you have a different take on things than what most others are doing out there. And so in your own words, Justin, what do you do for clients? A business comes up to you and says, okay, please help me, Justin. What does that look like and how are you helping them?
Sure. So I'm 100% simplifier. How my brain works is I hear blah, 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 and simplify it and turn it into patterns. That's how my brain works. So the formula for building a successful global company is very simple. It's very simple. So here's the entire formula. Is you see a problem, create solution to problem solve, successful global company. See a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. Okay, so that's the formula. So I was a journalist for 20 years and created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. Saw a problem, created solution, problem solve, successful global company. And my company's entire solution to that problem was on the website. There's no tricks. There's no gimmicks. This is what my company does. The problem is hundreds of times a day, you're annoyed by useless press releases from people you don't know. It's annoying. And the press releases are useless because they serve the client, not the journalist. That's annoying. And it doesn't help anyone. It's annoying. So my firm, solution to that problem is we create actual newsworthy stories, similar to what I did as a journalist. Comes a link on the client's website under news or blog. So it looked like a story. You see it in the Toronto Sun, New York Times, whatever. It doesn't matter. Take that link, pitch to media all over the world. Media's interested, put them in touch with the client. Problem solved. So it solves the problem. So clients around the world, all verticals except politics, because it's the opposite of visionary abundance investment mindset. All company sizes, that's meaningless. I only partner with people with visionary abundance investment mindset. Those people, they don't ask what do you cost or charge. They don't live in scarcity. They just want as an investment with you. Let's go. So it just eliminates all this transactional stuff that most people are living.
And it's fascinating because at the heart of it, for me, what entrepreneurialism is all about and being an entrepreneur, it's really finding a painful problem, solving it for people, and just becoming so world-class at that you can create a market disruption. And like you said, then go on and find the next problem.
You've done the same thing.
Exactly.
You've done the same. Figured out how to sell your company for the best. You waited it out, found the solution to that problem. Now you're teaching others how to do that. There's no difference. It's the same formula. You solve a problem, create a solution, problem solve, successful global company. I like talking to people like you because people with your brains create these things that change the world. And my brain simplifies it, and then it's intro media opportunity. The purpose of my life is to be a connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment, mindset entrepreneur and share their stories with the world. So that's 100% of my day besides hanging out with my family. So I work with people with your brains and then just simplify it. And people like you are very grateful for that because they want to be able to solve the problem for others. They just don't know how to get in front of the right people to do it. My brain just does it. It's so easy for me. It's endlessly fun. It's very lucrative. It's simple. There's a limitless abundance to people like you once you find people like you. That's the beauty of it.
And so, Justin, I'm sure that our listeners have the following question because you're working with successful business owners at successful businesses. You become world class at what you do. You're working with world class enterprises. What are these business owners doing or either not doing? If you were to look at 10 client cases that you really help make a difference, are there some patterns that you can share with us as business owners where we tend to just drop the ball?
Yeah, so my entire brain takes blah, blah, blah and simplifies it and turns it into patterns. So all I do is turn things into patterns. So thanks for using the word patterns. So the ultimate simplification, my favorite pattern that I've seen, this is the number one by far. So if you have the right mindset, it creates the right network and that creates the right opportunities. If you have the right mindset, creates the right network, creates the right opportunities. So again, that's why I only partner with visionary, abundance, investment mindset entrepreneurs. So people with visionary, abundance, investment mindset, you can only be one of two types of people. Why? Because I simplified everything and see patterns, which is what you just asked. So people with visionary, abundance, investment mindset, one of two types of people. Running high 6-figure to 10-figure business, see their family and friends whenever they want to, do what they like to do and what they're good at. Or they're going to be one of those people. They're not there revenue-wise, but they will be. They're not living in scarcity world. So I've worked with multiple billionaires, and I think it's up to six now, folks that are dirt broke. Why? Because they'll make the investment. They'll find a way to make the investment. They won't ask what do you cost. They'll find a way to make the investment. And so it just eliminates 99.9% of the population. But 0.1%, there's 8 billion people on the planet. 0.1%, just like the number of people, the percentage that said yes when I first started, 0.1%, is 8 million people. But 8 million people, they're the ones that actually create the technologies and the companies that employ everyone else. So I serve the 0.1% because they're the only ones that understand what I'm talking about, and they're the only ones that are going to create the companies and invest in them that hire and employ everybody else. So that's how I serve the world, by serving this one type of person.
So if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to our interview right now, Justin, and I'm saying, okay, Justin, listen, I'm a pretty smart person. I can have the right mindset. I have a terrific company. I haven't gotten it to the point quite where I'd like it to go, growth-wise, revenue-wise, profit-wise, whatever that may be. Based on what you've seen, Justin, what can I do for this person asking the question? What would be the top 2 or 3 things that I can do that maybe I'm not doing or I'm doing it wrong?
So that's a good one. One, when I hear over and over is we're tired of being the best secret. So they want to be in news and media to hide, usually global, but many times national, regional level to create more validity and credibility. So that's one. 2, joining the right groups of people, because entrepreneurs at the highest level are usually, but not always, aliens within their own family, aliens within their own community, aliens within their own vertical. Nobody understands them except the highest performing entrepreneurs on the planet. So I'm in 2 of the top entrepreneurial groups in the world. One is Strategic Coach, and the other one's Abundance 360, which in the level I'm at, 99% of the folks are running $10 million to $10 billion companies. And I like being in a room like that because, again, those are the people that are they're the wow that's actually happening. Wow is meaningless unless it happens. They'll find a way to get the capital that makes it happen. I just need to be in a room with people like that. And then I just work on my mindset every single day. I treat my brain like a muscle. But when you work on your mindset, it just attracts the right people that will do the things for you.
So Justin, is that the third component of that? You said tired of being the best kept secret, finding the right group of people. And so mindset rounds that out?
Yeah, that's interesting that I said it third because really mindset's number one. Mindset's the most important thing. I started my company with zero business background a little over 4 years ago. Zero. And I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know you had to pay taxes 4 times a year. I still don't know what an escort means. I have no idea what that means. But in terms of this, I just had the right mindset. It just attracts the right people. And when people like that, they just hang out with other people like that. And so, again, no outbound sales in years. They're just constantly getting intros to some of the top people in the world, or people that are hungry and will make the investment. Even if they don't have any money, they'll find a way to make the investment to become one of those people.
Let's talk about mindset. And I know that mindset, that could be many podcast episodes. There's so much that we can...
Endless.
That said, though, for our community, they're asking, okay, Justin, I'm a pretty positive person. I get the mindset part, but obviously things aren't connecting for me like they have with you. So what would be some of the takeaways from mindset? And really, you're your own personal experiment because you did this.
100%.
You became successful with this. So what did you do with your mindset to get it to the point where things started to click? And in your own words, you haven't done marketing in at least a few years. Clients are just introduced to you and they want to work with you. That's every business owner's dream. So how did you get there with your mind?
You're your own experiment too. This is what I mean. You're the only one who understands what you're literally your own experiment. You did what you're teaching other people to do. That's what I mean. Again, you're either born the highest performing entrepreneur on the planet or you're not. I'm strongly convinced of that. But most people would choose to have this life if they could do it, but they stop with those excuses. But what you can do is you can work on your mindset. You just work on your mindset every single day. And so you said 1 million podcasts. I run 6 days a week outside no matter the weather conditions. So I live in the Chicago area. And so it gets cold here in the winter. It gets very hot here in the summer. Oh, yeah, I run outside 6 days a week no matter the weather. And during those runs, I'd listen to mindset podcasts 90% of the time I do. Sometimes I listen to music. And then I start my day every day with a grateful journal to my wife. That's the first thing I do every day is what I'm grateful for her the previous day. And then I end the day, Monday through Friday, I end the day with a grateful journal. What I'm grateful for that day I write it out and I'll include this in that post. But I have about 26,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. So I say what I'm grateful for on LinkedIn. And so when you're constantly grateful, it's hard to be ungrateful. A good part of my day, Monday through Friday, is talking to the top entrepreneurs in the world. And the one commonality with the top entrepreneurs in the world is their mindset. That's the one commonality. That's it. So when you're constantly around people with the right mindset, you've got the right mindset.
And Justin, I know that there are listeners out there saying, okay, well, you're talking mindset. It's getting a little bit on the woo-woo side over here. Does it really work? Is this thing for real? How do you respond to that?
There's no response to someone who thinks like that. They just don't have the right mindset. So there's highest performing entrepreneur on the planet would never ask that question. They would never ask that. I know you're asking that for your audience, but that's what I mean. So my directness, I'm so direct because that weeds out nonsense and attracts greatness. So the only people that understand what I'm talking about are the highest performing entrepreneurs on the planet. Most people don't have the courage to do it. They let fear get in the way of having that courage. And I know who I am and I know who I'm not. And so the only people that are attracted to this, again, no outbound sales, the only people that are attracted to this are the top entrepreneurs on the planet. And without exception, those folks, when I talk to them, say, wow, you're a real breath of fresh air. You're not afraid to say who you are, and you're not afraid to say who you're not. Anyone can question this all they want to, but most of my day is talking to the top entrepreneurs on the planet, which, by the way, those are big investments to be in those rooms, not cost, big investment. Everyone in those rooms thinks like that. So you can question it all you want. I just know the people I hang out with universally have this mindset, universally.
And so for all you listeners out there that are wondering, what's this mindset? It just sounds so far off the beaten path. I hope you were paying close attention to what Justin was saying, because from Justin, and I can validate this for myself and the circles of success that Justin is in, it's really a circular argument. If you're questioning, is mindset important, then you're not going to be successful.
There's no argument.
It's a mental game that goes on to the physical playing field. And understanding that and knowing that. So if you're questioning mindset, maybe it's time to take a step back, reevaluate, and do a deep dive into where is your mindset not, and where does it need to be, and how that's going to bridge the gap to get you to where you want to go.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. The mental aspect to take to the physical field. That's really good. That was very good simplification and very powerful, because it all starts with mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, I don't care how successful you are in terms of what most people think of success in terms of monetary, in terms of 1 million employees, nicest car. I can't tell you how many gajillionaires I've talked to. I've talked to a lot of them, and go, oh, how's your family? How's your family? Oh, never had a family, or I never see my family. And when they say that, without exception, you hear or see, if it's in a real room or even on Zoom, you can see the hurt or hear the hurt, because it's the wrong mindset. And they're living in materialistic land. And so those are some of the most miserable people I've ever met in my life. And I don't care about revenue. I don't care about office space. I've never cared about any of that. Never, ever. And my 10Xs in life are two things, because I'm a simplifier and I see patterns. One is 10Xing experience in life with my family. If you have a good family life, you have a good life, period. You have a good family life. Two, network on a global level. When you do that, 10X that, you increase your opportunities for your network and yourself. So that's it. All this other stuff's just landing the plane stuff.
I love how you take the noise out of it. You get right to what the gold is. And before we talk about your book, I'll just circle back to mindset. It goes back even to some of the earliest books in business. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
I have it right over there.
At the core of it, for most business owners, that's the Bible of business. For most business owners, when you read that book, it's all about the mindset. That's where things start. That's where things end. And then from today, it's interesting, Justin, that you mentioned gratitude, because gratitude for many years, those in the know knew that gratitude was really one of the highest forms of a feeling that you can have. And now science is finally catching up and is validating that gratitude has some amazing chemical reactions in our bodies that releases all of these natural chemicals and hormones that have us feel good, to have us more receptive, to have us do the seemingly impossible to make it impossible. And it's interesting that you, of all the emotions that you mentioned, gratitude.
Impossible to I'm possible. You're really good at listening, but then taking that and then adding value to it. That's a very rare skill set, but very powerful. Ingratitude to I'm gratitude, that's a very good one. And like I was saying before, if you're constantly grateful, it's really hard to be ungrateful. It's really hard. There's really bad habits and really bad patterns. So what I've done is just flip bad habits, drug habits and things like that. It's bad habits. My whole life is good patterns and good habits. So when you just structure your life with good habits and good patterns, good mindset, then all this other stuff floats away. It just goes away, but you just have to keep reinforcing good habits and good patterns.
And it's interesting, Justin, you call it patterns and habits. I call it rituals. And for me, your daily rituals, your days become your weeks, and your weeks become your months become your quarters become your years, and your years become decades, and your decades become a lifetime. Yes. But it all starts with your daily, in your words, patterns or habits, or my word, ritual. So what you do on a daily basis is so important. And most people tend to underestimate the power of habits and patterns and rituals and how that can transform our lives.
So that's good. And so your me evolved, meaning you've been in entrepreneur life much longer than I have, and you've been doing good habits and good patterns much longer than I have. So that's what I mean. Most of my days talking to people like you, and then I just listen, then, oh, good idea. Then I execute on that good idea. Oh, I just incorporate that into my life. And it's like an endless learning of wisdom at the highest level. You could easily go off and live on an island by yourself and never see the world, but you would never be like that. That would be, I'm guessing, horribly boring for you. So you have all this knowledge and wisdom. Your life really is barely started, regardless of what age you are. And then you just do something cooler. You just do something better. And that's fun. That's exciting. That's interesting. That's the patterns and habits that just, as you said, transform over years and decades in life. I don't understand why people wouldn't want to be like that. That's what I don't know. But most people aren't. I just have nothing to say to that. That's the circular pattern. I don't get into that. There's another circular thing, hamster wheel. There's no hamster wheel here. There's just directness. You either get this or you don't get it, period. And I just hang out with the people that get it, because I'm not wasting my time on the circular argument nonsense. I'm not wasting my time.
And so key to what you're saying, Justin. And for our listeners, I hope you're really paying attention to that, because really what Justin is getting to, the people that you associate yourself with and the people that you spend the most time with, if you took the 5 people that you spend the most time with, you're the average of those 5 people. So are you like Justin? Are you hanging out with these extraordinary people, not just in business, but in life and with family and all those things in between? Or are you with people that are negative, who are bringing you down, telling you what you can't do? And the choice is yours. Where are you? And Justin has clearly made that decision of where he's going to be. And so, Justin, this is a nice segue into the book that you wrote. I love the title. And for our listeners, Justin's book is Epic Business: 30 Secrets to Build Your Business Exponentially and Give You the Freedom to Live the Life You Want. So it's a mouthful, but it's so key and so important in terms of what you're saying. Can you talk to us about the genesis of the book?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. So, in terms of my Strength Finders, Gallup Strength Finders, I'm 32 out of 34 at ideation. So I'm almost dead last in ideation. I don't have a lot of good ideas, but if there's a good idea, my top 3 are activate, maximize, achieve. So good idea, execute at the highest level. Okay. Most people write a book and it's completely meaningless because there's no meaning behind it. So if I do something that gets done at the highest level, I'm very thankful. It's an international bestseller in 6 countries, and Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference, wrote the foreword. I'm very thankful for that. And it's just an endless key that's opened up endless doors. That's really what it is. Okay. So with that background, on October 16th, 2019, which was my company's 30-month anniversary, I posted a list of 30 things I had learned in the company's first 30 months from some of the top entrepreneurs on the planet. So like I was saying, listen, oh, good idea, incorporate that. Good idea, incorporate, execute. Okay, so just a list of those 30 things. So everybody's, you have to write a book on this. You have to write a book on this. People, because it was pre-COVID, they were printing out the list and bringing it to meetings. I'm like, okay, I'll write a book. So signed with a top micro publisher in the US, wrote the book in 43 days, executed it, came out in May of 2020. I still do 2 to 3 interviews every week for it. And each one of those 30 things is a chapter. And just like my dad's diary, there's no BS, there's no fluff. It's perform and entertain, perform and entertain. It's been great because it's really helped a lot of people, and people don't know how to start. They don't know how to create a global company with zero business backgrounds.
And so, Justin, did I hear you right that you said when you were asked to write the book, 43 days later, you had the draft of the book done?
Yeah. So again, activate, maximize, achieve. I'm an entrepreneur who happens to be a professional journalist, so that's easy for me. That's not hard to write a book. It wasn't hard. It was very easy. It was very easy.
There's more to that. Look, you're a journalist. I get it. Before you started your company, you were writing for a living, but it's one thing to write and it's one thing to write an article. It's entirely different to write a book. And so for everyone listening in, he had this put in front of him. He said, yes, I'm going to do it. And boom, 43 days later, it's done. You hear these stories of, I got writer's block, or it took me 4 years. No. Never mind 43
I hear that story every day.
So talk to us then about this activate, maximize, and achieve, because it's a principle that you live by. You put it towards writing a book, and being a journalist aside, 43 days later, boom, you have the book. How did you come upon this? And what does that mean for you, practically speaking, when you're taking on a task or a project or a goal?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I usually get really annoyed with landing the plane questions because I'm flying the plane. Much like my dad was flying the plane in combat, but that's a really good one. And I basically ignore anything unless it's in my zone of genius, unless it's in my unique ability. That's another strategic coach term. But my zone of genius is the purpose of my life is to be a connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment, mindset entrepreneur and share their stories with the world. So to be a connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment, mindset entrepreneur and share their stories with the world. So if it's something is in that zone of genius, then I activate it and maximize it and achieve it without exception. It gets done. And as a journalist or an entrepreneur who happens to be a journalist, I wrote 2 to 3 stories on deadline for 20 years every day. So it's deadline, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. There's no procrastination. There's get it done. There's no excuses. There's results. And that's why I like talking to people who are all over the place with the idea. And then I just simplify it and then maximize, achieve, amplify very quickly and activate it very quickly. You can just do it. It's so easy for me, and it's really good collaboration. Everyone wins in that.
And what's interesting, Justin, that is so topical here at Deep Wealth, where people go through our 9-step roadmap, our 90-day system of how do you capture the maximum value for your liquidity event. And really, when you think about it, you can break that down into your 3 words. Well, you want to activate, you want to maximize, and you want to achieve. And so for our listeners, we're having just a tip of the iceberg, a peek into Justin's life here in terms of his rituals of what has helped build him success in a very short period of time that we can then take away, listen to what he's saying, take that away and begin to apply that to ourselves. And this activate, maximize, and achieve, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life that we can adopt for ourselves as we approach not just a liquidity event, but anything in our business life and in our personal life. And so, Justin, is this something that you see in the circles that you travel in, the people that you're interacting with? Maybe they use different words, but it's more or less the activate, the maximize, and achieve?
So at the highest level, there are no excuses. There's only activation. There's no excuses, only investment. And so your program is 90 days. There's literally no difference between what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. So that's what I mean. And then I simplify everything and I see patterns. So the pattern that you're doing is the same pattern that I'm doing, and it's for the same type of people. They just want results. So when you serve people that only want results and they're not going to quibble about cost, and you just get results. So I always laugh because it's fascinating to me that the entire world does not operate like this. But we're basically taught from day one, and there's exceptions to this, but we're basically taught by the educational systems to think the opposite of this. So you're ingrained with 18 to get a master's degree, 24 years, you get a medical degree. Like my wife's a doctor. When did she get out of medical school? 28. Your entire childhood is based on the opposite for the most part. So you just have to unlearn everything that you've been taught. And again, that's the best part about being an entrepreneur is that my kids who are 7 and 8, they get to learn that this life is possible. And then I get to teach them, give them this mindset from a very early age. So they don't have to unlearn what they've learned.
And you're so right when you go with the typical mainstream in terms of what you learn or really what you don't learn. It just goes to a completely different way of life and how you look at things and just the whole philosophy. And so what's wonderful, and I really understand where you're coming from, when you can speak to people who broke through, have positively changed people's lives, have made a difference, have benefited themselves after helping people, it's a game changer. And so, Justin, I'm wondering, as you look to your life experiences so far, and you think about your 2 children when they're where you are at your point in life, what would you want to be telling them in terms of, hey, here's my experience, here's what I want you to take away from this, of what I learned over the years that made a difference for me, as I hope it'll make a difference for you. If you had to boil that down, as hard as it may be, into 2 or 3 things.
Easy. No,
it's easy. Okay, let's hear it.
No, be a good dad. Be a good dad. That's it.
And why be a good dad? What, in being a good dad, what does that mean for you?
So maybe I oversimplified that. But if you're going to be a dad, and again, I lost my father when I was 13, so I know what it's like. And my dad was great, not a good dad. He was a great dad. So I know what that's like. All my best friends, with the exception of my wife, who's not an entrepreneur, all of them are highest performing entrepreneurs on the planet who would never let entrepreneur life destroy their family life. They would never do that. They would never do that. And I would never do that. And before COVID, I saw my children more than any dad I've ever met. And now I just see them more. And if you're going to be a dad, you be a dad. And like I saw my father for the first 13 years of my life, he was home all the time. And he was a great dad with a lot of wisdom. That's what I'm giving to my kids. And if and when they have kids, they can do the same thing. All this other stuff's meaningless without that.
It's so nice how, you separate the noise, you get to what's important for you in life, and you pass it along to our listeners. Now, you mentioned COVID. By the time this episode airs, I'm hoping, and we're all hoping, that we're really beyond it, and the new normal, whatever that's going to turn out to be, is with us. So let's look back for a moment and take a look at the pandemic from your experience, Justin, with your mindset and your wisdom. What were some of your takeaways from the pandemic?
Yeah, that's another good question. When it started, and again, mindset attracts the right network, creates right opportunities. Okay. That's the ultimate simplification for me. So right when COVID started, I have about 50,000 followers on social media. So when it started, I go, this will be the greatest opportunity for people with the right mindset, the greatest opportunity. And that's what happened, because people with the right mindset, even if they lost 100% of their business, okay, entrepreneur life, those 4 things, figure it out. No excuses, only investments. So just pivoted or created new businesses, whatever. No excuses, figure it out. So in terms of what my firm does, they invested heavily in that. So last year was by far the best year my company ever had. And this year will be even better. Why? Because they have the right mindset that attracts the right network and creates the right opportunities. And so I saw that right away when COVID happened, people with the right mindset. And I have several non-negotiables moving forward. One of them is I'll never visit another new client in person unless it's somewhere I want to go, because there's no reason to do it. And it's interesting because there's a couple rooms where I really want to be in person, strategic coach and Abundance 360. But for the most part, there's no reason to go anywhere. There's no reason to go anywhere. And people that were wanting to go back to in-person only, when there was a horse and buggy, and then there was this thing called a car that was invented. Most people didn't go back to the horse and buggy. So you went to the car, and now there's electric cars. So go to the next thing. So you don't go back to the horse and buggy, because all that did was have a lot of poop on the road. So you evolve from that. That's my favorite analogy with that one.
And I'm with you on that. Yes, there's some terrible things that came out of the pandemic, and my heart out to all those people who were negatively impacted and affected. But there's always 2 sides to a coin, and so many wonderful things came out of the pandemic. I'm with you, Justin. I hope that as society moves forward, we don't forget what we learned in the pandemic. We take the good with us and incorporate that into the new normal as we move forward in the days, weeks, and months ahead.
Totally agree.
So, Justin, as we begin to wrap up this podcast, I have one question that I ask every single guest. And the question is this. I want you to remember the movie Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. And in the movie, you have the magical DeLorean car, which can take you back to any point in your life. And Justin, imagine now that you look out your window and the DeLorean car is there. The door is open. It's welcoming you to come in. And you can go to any point in your life. It could be when you're a young child or a teenager or a young adult or whatever it may be. What would you tell yourself in terms of lessons learned or life wisdom or do this or don't do that? What would that be?
Yeah, and it's another excellent question. In April, my mom rented out a movie theater and had a little party in there. So we actually watched Back to the Future for my birthday. And I've seen that movie a million times. It was very interesting to see the movie as an adult. And it came out in 1985, so I was 8 then. So it's always interesting to see a movie as an adult and then reliving how you feel. I started this company with zero business back, zero. I got a full academic scholarship to a Big Ten university, got a 32 on my ACT. I have some type of a brain, I guess I do. But I would go back to college because I literally took zero entrepreneurial classes, didn't know what an entrepreneur. And the one thing, again, telling my kids this, is that I'd go back to college and take actual entrepreneurial classes taught by actual entrepreneurs, not some hack that's been a professor for 30 years and has never left the ivory tower.
There you go, straight from the source. And Justin, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Well, as we wrap up the interview, and I'll put this in the show notes, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you online, Justin, what would be the best place?
Sure. Justin Breen on LinkedIn would be great. B as in boy, R-E-E-N.
Terrific. And again, for our listeners, I'll put that in the show notes to make it an easy point and click for you. And so as we wrap up this interview, Justin, thank you so much for spending part of your day with us, sharing your wisdom, your story, and your insights. And as always, as we close this out, please stay healthy and safe.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
I mean, it was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learned from Deep Wealth experience, I believe is going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down, the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Sell My Business podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Reviews help me reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. As we close out this episode, a heartfelt thank you for your time, and as always, please stay healthy and safe.